Tarot, and in today's video we are going to be looking at what do your ancestors want to tell you. This is something I had meant to do around Halloween, but it just didn't happen. Speaking of which, if you are interested, please go check out my Patreon. I'm always adding to it, but over the course of October, we did a lot of really interesting videos digging deep into the Akashic Records about what's the deal with Mothman, Dogman, mermaids, Lumeria, why staircases randomly showing up in forests. I mean, the list goes on for fun, spooky, mysterious stuff. So that was a real, blast to dig into. Also, just a lot of surprises. A lot of stuff I had not anticipated. Also, you guys really were excited about vampires, so we did a lot on that as well. That was very fascinating as well. We're not done that serious. So, anyways, back to this topic. Now, I have actually already recorded this, and I have to just say this before I get into it. The question I would like to ask you guys to please put in the comments below is, please let me know if any of these ancestors sound familiar to you, or like you knew them directly, they were a little closer in relationship, or what did you feel pulled to energetically when you were listening to it, because it was so fascinating, getting different tonal aspects depending on the group reading. At a certain point, it got kind of confusing, because when I am in the spirit realm simultaneously and I'm talking to my spirit guides and your ancestors, people started to layer on top of each other, where it sounded like 10 people talking at once, and multiple different languages and stuff like that, which got kind of fun and wild. So I'd love to know, so please let me know. Other than that, I am just so excited to get into this with you, and I'd love to know what you guys think and feel. And also, please leave this video a like and subscribe. It helps out this channel like you would not believe. Anyways, we've got our groups. Oh, and by the way, I always like to say this, I have a Patreon, I have courses. Please go check them out. I worked hard on all of them. They basically give you all the tools that you see me use all the time, and they're incredibly fun. I use them every day. They've totally helped and changed my life. I'm just offering them to you if you're interested in the description below. But going back to what we have 3 groups in front of us. I want you to contemplate the idea of your ancestors, hold them close to you, and then I want you to pick between group number 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to give you a moment to do that. Now that you have, you can go down to the description, or you can skip to your designated group. I love you guys so much. I'm so pumped to talk to you guys and your ancestors, and I'll see you there. And let's get started with group number 1. Group number 1, let's find out, what do your ancestors want to tell you by looking at the cards? And we're going to do things a little bit differently today. So first, these cards, the Magician upright, the Knight of Swords in reverse, and the Queen of Pentacles. This is your general reading. But then, the Ten of Wands upright, this is your, what's weighing you down the most at the moment right now. And then this is the solution to that, the King of Swords in reverse. And what did my spirit guides say? They said this is what your ancestors think is the thing that's the thing weighing you down. This is their personal perspective and everything like that. So just give me a second to look at everything and get all the details and talk to your ancestors and my spirit guides and all that good jazz, and I will be with you in one moment. By the way, I don't know if you can hear it, but there is some talking from my neighbors. Not a big deal, but every time I Every time I apologize to you guys or wait for the sound to stop, you're always like, I don't hear it. So we're just going to continue. So just give me a little more time. Okay. So I don't know how to put this any other way, but your ancestors are pretty direct. It feels like they can look through any of your excuses and kind of give you the tilted down eye look, like the glasses down the nose, and they look past the glasses and they give you that look like, do you want to tell me the truth now? And it's very filled with love. That was something else I asked my spirit guide and the ancestors. I was like, is there anything else, to this you want them to know? And they just were like, we love them very much. So they love you very much. And there's a lot of great advice, but they're just not really skirting around anything, which I love. I'm really excited to see each personality of ancestors come through each reading. So let's get started. So first very direct point is in the Nine of Swords in reverse. So they basically said that you're really displeased with how your life's going right now. And essentially there's a lot of worry about it and anxiety. But in so many words, they're saying there is a solution, you could fix it, but you're spending all your time looking at the things you don't like about your life. There's a lot of repeating in your head over and over again, like, well, if I only had this, or this is the goal I want, or I've been trying to go through this, go towards this thing for so long, and if I just get this, then I'll be this, or, that type of situation. And if we look in reverse, a really great imagery when you look at reversed cards, if you're reading for yourself, is with this being in reverse, the person is no longer haunted by these swords that, let's be real, it's not only of their past and past mistakes, but they could potentially fall. It's an understandably scary situation. But now, with it in being reversed, they can just fall forward past the swords. It's very easy. It's very easy for them to slip into a different situation, a different dimension, a different room, however you want to look at the perspective of it. And that's the main thing you want to hold on to, this idea, is that that's fine that you're unhappy with how things are going, but you need to focus more time on what you think is working out for you, or is a potential option you could do. Let me ask your ancestors really quickly if they think options or headspace. Oh, your ancestors were very heavily like options, look for options. So you're going to look for all the options of a different job, a different, a person you can be with, or so on and so forth. And you want to focus on looking for those more than just being stuck in frustration. An important thing to know before I move on to the next card is Knight of Swords in reverse is incredibly comforting, because while it does talk about being anxious, it implies that there is a solution and you're just not allowing yourself to see it. It's not to downplay or make your feelings invalid. It's more just like, this is not a situation that's unmovable. You can do something about this. Yes, you're stressed out about it, but we can look at it from a different perspective or try something else out. Now, moving forward, we have the Queen of Pentacles. And we want to look at the imagery right here with the snake bringing the pentacle to this individual. The way it was described to me is that this snake is sort of luring this person with what they can offer them. And basically, your ancestors very bluntly said, you are too focused on the alluredness of what others can offer you and waiting for that opportunity to be given to you, rather than working with what you can create. To make this make even more, hit home even more, is in the Queen of Pentacles, this is somebody who's an incredible manifester, businesswoman, you name it. She has a lot of success. And the main reason she is so sustainable and can just have all these good things happen around her is because she can create them herself. That's like the main thing she does. She's always creating things, DIYing things. She has lots of skills. She's a master of them. And because she always has a flow of products being created, she can sell them. Because she can always make and solve the solution to her problem, she never has problems. And essentially, when we look right here, it's like she's putting her abilities on the back burner and not allowing herself to regularly say, hey, you know what? I don't have to wait for this opportunity. I'll create this opportunity, or I will create the situation I want to have happen. Like a good example is, let's say you would like to go to more social gatherings, right? Like a party or something, and you're just not being invited to any. Well, nothing is stopping you from figuring out how to create one for yourself. And you could even set something up where, like, let's say your problem is you're like, well, I don't really have a lot of, friends. Well, again, nothing is stopping you from reaching out to like a local bookstore, or like there's like game stores and comic book stores and stuff like that will allow you to use it as like a social gathering. And maybe you set up some sort of event like a game board night or something, and it brings in people to come to the social event that anyone would be interested. Now you're creating a social gathering for yourself. That would be like an example of this. I did ask, because when they described the word luring, I was like, is it like an outside force? Like, is there someone in particular you should look out for? And we're going to actually get to that idea over here, but I was told yes, but it's more of like the Matrix. To explain this even better, and this is something so that you can prevent yourself from getting re-trapped into the influence of all of it, is when we look at these flowers down right here, think of this, anyways, back to what we were saying, this is a system working really well together, benefiting all one another, as you can see the beautiful roses. So that seems really attractive, that something's in place. But we want to look at this system like the illusion that's being sold to us through like social media, anything where it's like, yeah, if you just follow this set of ideas, you're going to have this type of success. So it pulls you into certain practices that you wouldn't organically express from yourself, like in your day-to-day life, but you think you have to in order to gain something else, or maybe it's quote-unquote considered normal. But something to consider here, as this is understandably drawing you in, because it's nice to know if you do X plus Y, you'll get Z. I mean, this is a huge reason I personally feel people love playing The Sims. It is so fun to, like gain money in that way, because it just feels very point blank. You work harder, you gain more skills, you naturally get promotions and stuff like that. But you also want to be aware that this is just a perspective of that quote unquote system, and that in fact, and this is something I thought was really good advice my spirit guides were adding to this discussion of the cards, was that there could always be another system in place, that like in another reality, that system is described as something else or has a different way about going things. So it only has as much power as you put into it. And the reality is you don't really need to fall into that line. You don't need to wait for everyone else to say you're good enough to do it, or wait for that opportunity to come. This is basically giving us the guarantee that you have the skills and abilities now, and your spirit guides are like, what are you doing? Get off the shelf. Stop being anxious. I don't want to say stop being anxious. Stop focusing on this. Go look for opportunities. You have the skills. Stop waiting around and go. It's very that energy. Then we have the Magician card over here. And again, I feel like I'm in the room with like a grandmother that's like, you know better, or something like that. I don't know how to describe it. But they said that they want you to communicate with them a lot more, like your ancestors as a whole. They said, one, you already have the ability. Like, they were very like, don't tell me you don't lie to me, don't lie to yourself, like you can already do it. And they want you to communicate with them regularly. The main part about this, the like motivation behind this, is one, connection. When we sometimes feel connected to people who have, are no longer here, it can feel really loving and give us comfort when we really need it. And when we feel loved and comforted, it can help us with our confidence and focus and feeling like we make decisions for ourselves rather than the pressure of society. But when we use our psychic abilities, it branches us off into other abilities. So like, the main thing your ancestors were telling me is they want you to communicate with them more so they can give you knowledge regularly. But then what ends up happening is you open up the gate to, talk to your spirit guides. If you want to talk to anyone else in the spirit realm, you're welcome to. You're welcome to extend that knowledge and someone like me, look into the future and so on and so forth. When it comes to psychic abilities, this is something I talk about on my Patreon all the time. There's just no limit, and you can just constantly find a reason to communicate with something else. In fact, the other day, I wouldn't say the other day, a while ago, I can talk to animals now pretty fluidly. I could before, but not consistently, and now I'm just flowing. So there you go. Now, when it comes to magician, when you ask how to communicate with them, you're welcome to do it through tarot. I have a tarot course and I have an intuition training course which teaches you how to straight up go to the spirit realm. You can go talk to your ancestors very directly through that. Tarot is a great way through talking through ancestors and stuff like that. But I would also recommend, to be honest with you, with the magician card, this is more of I'm getting more pulled towards a vocal element, you learning to just full on out loud talk to your ancestors, just say what's on your mind, whatever. And your initial responses might be through synchronicities or a radio song playing or something lining up in the right way as a response. But over time, you can potentially just full on either hear their voice. Also, there are ways to hear their voices that are not full on auditorial. Sometimes they can use your inner monologue to communicate back. It's kind of nuanced. This is something I've talked about in depth on my Patreon, but you get the gist. You just want to basically say to the universe, I'm open to this idea to get it going, and that's usually all you need to open up your psychic abilities, is just have that attitude of, I'm doing it, I'm trying it, I'm keeping it open, let's go. Now, for the biggest thing weighing you down in the 10 of Wands. Now, your ancestors were telling me that there is someone specifically really putting you in a position where you think you owe them your time and money and energy. And it has you trying to compensate that pretty heavily, in an imbalanced level, where you, first of all, think you owe them anything. And I was double checking if you did. Do they owe them? I'm just going to check again. No. Okay, perfect. But it's this feeling of they have you thinking not only that you owe them anything, but you just constantly feel like whatever you're offering them isn't good enough, so you get kind of tricked into doing even more back. Now remember, 10 of Wands tends to refer to people who are doing work that is somebody else's job, so it's someone being tricked into picking up the slack that the other person should be doing. So they might be like, oh, I'm just tired today. And then you end up, lifting more boxes, writing more memos, whatever. When in reality, they've basically tricked you into doing their work, essentially. But I'm happy to say the solution, and a really interesting one, and a theme you'll notice in this whole thing, is in the King of Swords in reverse. Your ancestors were telling me that you need to not be consumed by your mind, at all. With it being a king, I can see that you're a great thinker. And it's that can be an advantage and a disadvantage. So you can give yourself all these excuses or reasons as to why you do owe them, or why you're a quote-unquote bad person because you didn't do that, or you feel bad. It's you can think of all these reasons that it's almost they have tricked you into thinking this, and then you're giving them the benefit or helping them out by continuing to talk yourself into doing the work that you don't need to do, essentially. And remember, we're talking about time and energy as well. Sometimes it's just sitting around and having to listen to them longer than you would really care to, or benefits you, or you would want to. Now, what they meant by you want to let that go, is they say you want to focus on action. That because you're too good at thinking this isn't, you can't approach this by rationalizing your way out of this. You can't tell that part of yourself, that internal monologue, to be like, this is the reason why I deserve not to do it. You just need to not show up anymore for them. You just need to, through your actions, and this is the key part, rather than thinking, you want to choose your actions to make the thing that's going to pull you away from this person and put you in the scenario you want. All you need to do is just pull yourself into a different perspective. Like, a good way of viewing this is like when somebody is in a not great romantic relationship situation and they just always find a reason to keep going back to their ex, and they just kind of can't, like when they're in the room with them, they can't figure out why they wanted to leave in the first place, or what the issue was, or what was their excuse and reason why it was a good reason to leave. But then when they're pulled away and they're with their friends and they're no longer with them anymore, that tune changes. It's easier for them to connect to what they really want to do, and so on and so forth. So the main thing you'll notice in all of these is your spirit guides are really focused on you doing it yourself, and a lot of action over thinking. Because where we kind of put our intention, we can put our intentions towards our thoughts, towards our energy, whatever, is what grows essentially. And they're saying, like, you can do this. We want to give you more knowledge. We want to keep this flow going. We want you to get away from this person that's wasting your time. Lots of beautiful, helpful information. And I love that for you. But very upfront. I would actually love to know, because remember, we are talking to ancestors, so I'm actually really curious if you feel like you already know this ancestor. And what I mean by this is, like, is this your grandma or great-grandfather or something, like you recognize them? You're like, I recognize them. Or is this somebody that you're like, ooh, they sound a little more distant. I don't know them personally, but I'm listening. They've been watching me for a while. So anyways, I would love to know in the comments below. Please tell me. I'm reading. I'm curious. And please leave a like as well, and a subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. I love you so much. Let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2. Let's find out, what do your ancestors want to tell you by looking at the cards. And we're going to do things a little bit differently today. So we're going to have this first group, Page of Swords upright, Queen of Swords upright, and the Emperor upright be the general reading. But then we're going to have the Four of Pentacles in reverse be the thing that your ancestors say are like weighing on you heaviest and pulling you down the most. And then the Five of Pentacles are going to be our solution. So just give me 1 second to look at all of this and to go communicate with your ancestors and my spirit guides, and I will be with you in 1 moment. Oh. Okay, let's get into this. This is a very sweet one. And it gets pretty sentimental, so let's get into this. First, we're going to start with the Queen of Swords, and up here is the image that your ancestors were basically saying, like, this is meant to represent them, and them handing you this, which is, this is you right here. So essentially what they are handing you are synchronicities and clues and hints trying to point you toward the truth. They said that this is like one of the important things you want to focus on right now. They did say, and it does, I mean, for them to say this makes me wonder if you do this. They said it's important you don't want to play devil's advocate. That's how they put it. That while we can find reasons to understand everybody's perspective, it muddles what is just happening. So you're going to want to look at different situations, people, and you want to say to yourself and look at the situation and almost like explain it to somebody else. Like, not that you're going to do that. You're pretending you're doing that to someone else, but you're explaining it to your own self. You're the someone else. And just explain the situation as is. No, well, that's how they feel, and well, they've been going through a tough time. None of that. You just want to say, this is what they did, and this is what I did. And it just is what it is. And you want to view that truth and what it is, and then from there make decisions. I want to be clear, in the long run, it is wonderful to be able to see everyone's perspective and have empathy and love and give people, second and fourth chances and stuff like that. But in this particular case, sometimes we have to explore other parts of ourselves, sometimes very decisive parts of ourselves. And some note I will say, and what I think is so sentimental about your spirit guides talking about you being connected to the truth and them trying to help, I'm sorry, not spirit guides, ancestors. Yeah, I said ancestors, right? Ancestors giving you I'm so sorry, I can hear angels talking to me. Give me a second. Oh, and the angel said that you need to go talk to them too. Sorry, they're talking over me. I'm trying to, hold on, everyone shut up. The Queen of Swords, going back to what we were talking about, they said the Queen of Swords is about, okay, I found my flow again. Thank you for your patience. The Queen of Swords is about the idea that when we are very upfront with other people or ourselves, it's like a love and respect thing. Like, you're not wasting anyone's time and you're just getting right to the point, and that point will be the most helpful. Nothing to bring someone down or, pull them away from their confidence, but have them better understand the situation as it is. So remember that as your spirit guides are trying to point you toward the truth, is they are going to kind of be like, look over here, see this. And those are particular moments you want to think of it just as it is, no extra flair. Don't think of the past. Don't listen to what intentions were. What did someone do? What happened? What is the situation you're in? And what, if you lay it out flat, what is it? Now going forward, we have the Emperor, and this got very sentimental. So I was connecting with an older grandfather-esque man. I was told this is someone you did know directly. And I got a kind of, because again, this is a general reading. I weirdly was pulled to grandfather energy and great uncle energy, but then I did get a hair of a straight up father, but he would have been much older. And so this individual, the best way to navigate understanding who is it, how are they connected to you, is not only would you have known them, so it would have been a closer ancestor, but they were very set in their ways, and they were very sweet. They said they're really, really sorry, and this is how they put it. They said, I'm really sorry I was so bent out of shape in my lifetime when I was there. And they wanted you to look at the imagery of this card, how this person is standing up and about to kind of take action rather than being unmovable. They said, now that I'm, gone to the other side, I am now movable. I, who never thought I would, kind of change my ways or my opinions, now am. And I hope in my own realization, them talking about themselves, you can now move too. That was the main thing they said. They said, I'm sorry I was bent out of shape, and you can now move too. And they described you moving as you don't need to allow the way they influenced you in the time period you were together. In the after effect is you right now feeling maybe afraid to take a step forward or interact with a certain person or go for something because you're afraid you're not good enough for it. They're saying, move towards that thing. take that step forward, make that interaction, go for that opportunity. They realized the way they lived their life was a mistake. They're really sorry, they love you. And it's just a reminder of now, it's now time for you to move forward. Very sweet, got me all teary-eyed, very, very cute. This one's also actually really cute. In the Page of Swords upright, the way your ancestors were describing it to me is you'll have these moments where life is going really good, and it almost I kind of got this feeling of you being out of breath, as if when you got to that moment where you were victorious, whether that be full on getting a big milestone in your life complete, or maybe you were just having a good week and you were getting all the things you want to get done, and you're really in it, and you're kind of taking a moment of self-reflection. There's this self-reflective moment when you're really in it, right? And you're really working hard, again, that breathing I'm being shown, that you working hard towards it. And you kind of stop and ask yourself, who am I doing this for? It's kind of interesting. I almost get a subtext and wonder if maybe you don't really have a lot of people in your life right now in that kind of way. And so you're asking yourself, am I doing this for these people that are not around anymore? There's no one here to witness it. But then I'm also being pulled towards, because again, this is a general reading, I'm pulled towards people who are kind of mentally over feeling like they have to live up to their parents' expectations. It's almost like you're asking yourself, do I want this? Am I doing this for societal recognition? Am I doing this because it's what I was told I'm supposed to do? It's like you're having this moment where you're pausing and you're having this sense of what's going to fulfill this feeling. You were building a feeling of satisfaction, of working towards this milestone, working towards this flow, getting it all done, being successful. But the ending note, that final completion of I did it, you can feel it's not happening, and you're wondering if these questions we were just posing a moment ago are the answer. Is it because I want to share it with someone? What is it? So your ancestors said it's because you're becoming displaced in reality from those moments. It's you stop and you kind of question. It's almost like questioning the capitalist system, essentially. And you have this moment where you're you wake up and you're what am I doing? What is any of this? But instead of those are the questions, we talked about, that question of what are you doing it for, who are you doing it for kind of thing. And they said, when you have those moments where you stop and you're suddenly unfulfilled and you're kind of questioning it, he said, those are the moments where you want to dream and heavily meditate on the idea of flying. Not only because when you're flying, it's you're pulling yourself out of the equation as is, but when you're feeling displaced after so much momentum and positive force and all of a sudden it just doesn't feel like it's satisfying, it's because it's not satisfying. The answer isn't a solution of doing it for a person or finding the right purpose. You're questioning the whole thing altogether, and what you're really striving for is just total freedom, total present and at peaceness. And when you're flying, it's giving you that great sense of satisfaction. It's giving you an opportunity to just look down on the world and have a good time. I will point this out. In my intuition training course, I teach people how to go to the spirit realm and stuff and hang out with spirit guides. You can fly all the time in the spirit realm. And that includes going down to the physical world and flying. So you can fly in the spirit realm, you can fly in the physical earth, you can fly on other planets. Just putting that out there if you want to go next level with your flying. But dreaming and meditating is more than enough. I love that. It's super sentimental. It's super sweet. And I like that it gives you the answer you didn't at all probably think you were looking for. Now let's talk about what's weighing you down the most and the solution, because this is important. In the Four of Pentacles in reverse, I'm almost being shown many people. It could just be one, but I feel weirdly, I feel drawn is what I'm going to say, but let me double check. For most of you in a general reading, it's many people. Okay. So I'm being drawn to the many people situation, and they are sort of, the way your spirit guides put it is they said you're not protecting yourself and your resources, and you're being taken advantage of, specifically financially. I almost get this weird feeling, and I want to be clear here, what I'm about to say is not a general statement at all. It's just the feeling I get. It's almost this feeling like you have a child that's older, for some of you, or someone you know that's in your life, where like you don't need to keep paying for them. You don't need to keep, it's like that sensation where it's like, I don't need to keep, like they could pay for it. I don't need to keep doing it anymore. And they kind of know that. And instead of it just being like a generous action from you and them being appreciative, it's like they're aware you won't put this wall up between the two of you. And so they just keep like asking for more. And the main thing that's weighing you down is your not spirit guides, your ancestors are like, you got to protect your resources. Something important to notice with the Four of Pentacles is it does imply feeling like there's a finite amount of resources. Sometimes, I don't want to like freak you out, but sometimes it's just like our perspective, and sometimes it's like a warning, like maybe you're going to need that money for in the future, and you're going to be really appreciative to have more saved. I'm not saying it's going to be that, but I'm just putting those options out there. And essentially their solution, they said, is imagine this is them. They're the little puppy. As sad as it is, this little puppy's out here. Look at this wall. There's a wall, there's a window, no one can come in. They're aware you're on the other side. They are aware you have resources, and you're like, nope, just no. Just nope, not giving you anymore. And the idea that I like around this perspective is one of the reasons why you were giving it up so much is like when we look at this image right here, it's so sad to have this little puppy not allowed in. It's snowing. It doesn't seem great. Maybe they're hungry. You know what I mean? And so you can understand there's so much temptation to still give that away, but it's the thing pulling you down the most. It's not adding up in a way that's going to make you feel better. It's definitely not making the two of you like actually closer. You know what I mean? So that's the main thing you want to do, is protect your resources. So I love this for you. Your ancestors were incredibly forthright, sentimental, very sweet, and I'm excited for you with all of this. Please leave a comment and a like, subscribe. It helps out this channel like you would not believe. I love you all so dearly, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3, let's find out, what do your ancestors want to tell you by looking at the cards? And we're going to do things a little bit differently today. So this first couple of cards, the King of Pentacles upright, the Six of Pentacles upright, and the Two of Pentacles upright are your general reading. But then we have the King of Cups upright, representing what your ancestors feel is weighing on you most and pulling you down the most. And then the, Queen of Cups upright being your solution. So give me a moment to look at all the details, go back and forth with your ancestors, and talk to my spirit guides, and I will be with you in one moment. Interesting. I would almost argue that these 3 main cards are very career focused. It makes me feel like your career is on your mind a lot, which is really It's interesting because there's like different perspectives, if you will, from it. But it's very money driven. So we're going to talk about this first. Or wait, let me ask your ancestors if they want me to talk about this first. This first and then this. Okay, cool. It's really interesting. This is the main reading, but then this takes a totally different spin of like what's weighing you down. It's really interesting what's like underneath the surface of all of us. So first we've got the Six of Pentacles. And we want to look at this individual who's really hypnotized by these pentacles rather than these individuals in front of them and the interaction they could have between the two of them. And they just seem like totally focused on this and barely focusing on that. So my spirit guides say, or not my spirit guides, I'm so sorry. Your ancestors were saying that this isn't so much about greed or an imbalance of wanting money. I want to be clear about that going forward. That was like a big thing they were discussing. They just said that you're like too focused on the money you can get from, whatever your job is, than the interaction you can have with the individual. And again, it's not a criticism that you can't be like pumped about what you can receive financially and what you can build towards, and like it's totally cool to like want money and stuff like that, but it's like a happiness thing of in the long run feeling more fulfilled, and it's also an attracting money thing. You want to find balance in all aspects of your life. So you could argue that there could be an imbalance if you're only focused on the interactions with the people rather than setting sort of a precedent of how much you're worth and being like, yes, well, I'm performing a service for you. I deserve compensation for that back for my time and energy and stuff like that. So again, it's about when you go to do your job, you work with a client or whatever have you, you want to slow down and not be so like, okay, the next order, the next client. And you want to stop and be like, okay, I already, I'm going to receive my money. Everything's cool. What is this like with this person? Let me add extra little stickers or put a little special touch or be so happy someone purchased this thing I created. Or maybe if you work in a service where it's like one-on-one type of like a client interaction, you think about that connection at hand and enjoying the moment with them and like just having the most present experience, if you will. So I love that for you. Also, I find when we get displaced with our perspective only being about money, sometimes you unintentionally, not every time, but sometimes people can unintentionally start to put out like a frequency where you're telling the universe that you are somehow without money. You know what I mean? That you need it. And you're basically saying to the universe when you interact with these people, of course I have the money. Now I'm just having a good time. I'm just enjoying the job that I have. Woo, 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 whatever. You know what I mean? It's like you're saying by proxy of this interaction, of course I have money. And that's the motto we're putting out for you today. Of course you have money. Now going forward, so when I was talking to this ancestor, let me just say if I can say this. Okay, they spoke in like a very like broken English. It was kind of confusing because I understood what they were saying, but in the spirit realm, things can get kind of trippy because it's trying to explain multiple ideas from you. Not from you, from like in general, for everyone. And when I was receiving the information, I can't quite decipher basically who they are, like what background they would come from. But it doesn't sound like they came from like America or like Canada or like London, anything where it's like an English speaking country first. It sounds like it would be somewhere else basically. But so I'm just putting that out there. But they said this in kind of my spirit guide broke it down more so it was more clear, but they said you're too focused and concerned about how you can potentially impress other people, or you're thinking like, is this interesting? Would this get them excited? And you're really focused on that headspace of what can you do to impress or bedazzle people, again, it feels very much from like a career perspective. Like, you know, an influencer would think this when they go to take their photo for Instagram. They would think, you know, how can I, you know, look the best I possibly can look to have people interested? Or, you know, you think this about your product you're selling. They have this mindset too. And they basically said that it doesn't really actually matter. And they said something kind of interesting that you should definitely dig deeper into, because I had to ask a bunch of questions to get like a deeper subtext of all of this. But they said, this person is performing for a circus, and there isn't even a circus there. And I was like, interesting. And when I was asking my spirit guide about this in further details, there's this almost feeling of disconnect. Like, you know how sometimes you can feel very comfortable being like, yeah, I want more money. But then when somebody offers you more money, you're uncomfortable charging like the correct amount of money for whatever you're offering. It's like that energy. It's like, you have this idea, you're gonna be this performer, and you're thinking about this whole, you know, dream, like fantasy daydream of this is how I'm gonna do the act and whatever. But the idea of actually going to the circus makes you maybe nervous, and you don't like that social experience. And there's like a disconnect into the full, complete idea. And again, it doesn't mean it's about criticizing that. It's about reassuring, like your ancestors were reassuring you of like, if you think the thing that's holding you back or could get you more is so focused on the idea of how you attract them and how you give this amazing performance and looking a certain way, that doesn't really matter. Basically, you can receive the money and business and whatever you need and whatever you want to experience out of life if you didn't even lift a finger. That's like your motto you basically want to uphold and have, instead of getting into this sort of almost accidental lacking mindset. And you also want to more focus on pretending so like, let's say this is like when we're talking about career focus. Imagine right now, like, go through the meditative process, sit down in meditation, and you're going to imagine yourself, whatever your job is, you're going to imagine yourself making the product, advertising the product. You imagine someone buying the product. You're going to imagine what that would feel like to have the money go into your account. You're going to imagine wrapping the present. But the important thing I want you to connect to emotionally is you're kind of acting like a detective for yourself, where when you're thinking of the whole scenario and transaction, what part makes you feel nervous? And that's the part that's more important you want to like essentially give attention to. And I get a strong like you need to comfort or like heal a certain part of yourself, and that's kind of like the missing piece that will make it easier for you to flow with money. So you don't realize there's a disconnect because your focus is like, no, this is the thing, this is how I'm going to draw them in, but you're not realizing that the whole idea isn't going to come together if you don't finish this other thing that you don't realize is a blockage. So that's how you can go about basically like looking for that blockage, which now makes sense how this all comes together. Then we have the King of Pentacles. Again, very business related. Your spirit guides were even talking about business, and they said that when it comes to what you have right now, your business in general, is you don't, when it comes to basically accumulating more money, you don't want to focus on something new right now. You actually want to heavily focus on making what works for you with what you have at this moment. And I got a very like, I don't know how to put this any other way, dark feeling around your business. Like, it's almost like, and then this is when I asked more questions and I basically got this explanation. It's like there's unhealed parts of the business. And again, we talked about that. Like maybe there's something you sell that you over time have felt negative about, and you kind of view it in a negative way, unnecessarily. And you don't realize you're like having animosity towards it. You're resentful it's not selling or something like that. Do you see what I'm saying? Or like maybe you have built up a negative association with a certain part of, like, so let's say you need to like present yourself and put yourself out there in some kind of way to bring people's attention into, you know, getting whatever you have, like your product or whatever. And it's like you feel negative about that now. It's like you want to heal and reface and ask questions of like, what do I need to do to view this in a positive way or fall back in love with this aspect of my business? And by healing and working with it now, 1, yay, more money. 2, feeling better and feeling more complete. And 3, it's this almost like you went from thinking, what I have now is not good enough, so I need more, to being like, of course I'm good enough just as I am. Which is really interesting because you can really see how these all 3 run into the other one and really influence and have, like, they all sort of build off the other one. The reason why I point this out is I love that about tarot, and your ancestors were very on the money, shall I say. But now to get to more of the heavier part of the conversation. So in the King of Cups upright, we can see what your ancestors say are like the heaviest, most pulling you down the most. So they said that there's someone in particular that is incredibly good at navigating like social situations, how to emotionally handle things, advice. Like there's just this general, like they just seem like they know what they're doing and they have things figured out in a way that you wish that was the case. And the problem is that you're putting all of your attention onto them. And there's almost like a pining or an envy of like, oh, look at how great it is for them. I wish I was like that. And it's really interesting we go into that idea because the solution is just that, is to redraw that attention away from them and towards yourself. Now, the thing with the Queen of Cups is she's still a complement like the King of Cups. The King of Cups is a master of what he does when it comes to emotional maturity, how he interacts with people. He can navigate that space and multiple people's problems and complex emotional issues with great ease. People really admire him and come to him for advice. Life is easier for him in that way. The Queen of Cups can too, but she handles it differently. I like to almost view her as like a self-love card because the Queen of Cups realizes that her emotional state is like the waves. It goes up and it goes down. And we want to think of it quite dramatically, like a surfer riding a wave up, riding a wave down, big waves up and down. And her emotional maturity is no longer criticizing herself for her lows. Like she finds a lot of deep insight and ability to empathize with others because when she feels low, she doesn't think like there's anything wrong with that. She thinks, well, this is where I'm at. This is who I am. I'm clearly low for a reason. I'll understand what that is. It's only temporary. And she doesn't judge herself for those time periods. So when she goes back up, she totally enjoys them, but she's not like, this is it. This is how I'll feel forever. This is amazing. I never want to feel bad again. She's just totally going with the flow and has the emotional maturity to not judge herself. So basically it's saying, your ancestors are saying, stop focusing on this other person you think has it all figured out. You actually have it figured out too. The missing part of your equation is basically self-love and a lack of judgment when you need an extra second or minute to feel a feeling. And that's okay. So I love that for you. Your ancestors give really great advice that is really sweet. And I'm excited for your turning around with your business and an emotional like interaction with it, and just it sounds like you don't have to invest any more money, which is great. So I love that for you. And please let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know. And please leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. I love you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.